This is the hottest bedroom in the house. Every time I sleep in here, I wake up in the middle of the night sweating and I get a horrible night's sleep. 8 Sleep recently sent me their Pod Pro to try out, and I wanted to see if it lived up to the hype, if I could actually get a good night's sleep in this bedroom, and do a brutally honest comparison to Chilisleep's Ooler and Dock Pro. So why would you want to get any of these systems in the first place? Well, they allow you to control the temperature of your bed by circulating water through a mattress pad. All 3 systems have similar temperature ranges, and they have the option to get hotter or colder than you'd likely ever want them to be. The colder temperatures are what I'm more interested in, since those colder temperatures can serve as an internal trigger for sleepiness. And it's way too hot in that bedroom for anybody to get a good night's sleep. I want to mention that I had the Ooler from 2019 up until spring 2022. That is when I upgraded to the Dock Pro. So I feel very comfortable comparing my 8 Sleep experience to my experience with the Dock Pro and the Ooler. While the 8 Sleep takes the longest to set up, it is definitely the most secure on the bed. For the Ooler and the Dock Pro, you plop the mattress pad onto the bed, put the elastic straps under the mattress, connect the hubs, fill them with water, turn it on, and you're good to go. But the 8 Sleep requires you to put 2 layers on the bed, the encasement and the active grid. And you've got to ensure that the fit is super snug, and then you have to zip it up and cinch it into place. It almost seems like your mattress is wearing a corset. Now, I haven't experienced this myself, but I have heard people complain that the Dock Pro's mattress pad can get a little bunched up and it just doesn't stay put. This is absolutely not an issue with the 8 Sleep. That thing is not going anywhere. But you can even see right here that the Dock Pro mattress pad is a little bit looser fitting on the bed. But wait, you're not done setting the 8 Sleep up yet. You've got to connect it to your Wi-Fi, and you've got to go through a priming phase, which can take up to 3 hours. And you need about 1 gallon of distilled water and roughly 2 cups of hydrogen peroxide to go through this process. The 8 Sleep does require the most amount of water out of the 3 devices, but it does have the largest and best designed water tank. The Ooler's water tank isn't removable, and the opening is way too small. You're guaranteed to overfill it and spill water at some point. The Dock Pro does have a removable water tank. The opening is much larger, it's a much better user experience, but you do have to make sure that the water tank is locked in properly. Otherwise, you're gonna end up with a lot of water on the floor. And what's nice is that 8 Sleep designed their water tank so there really isn't any way for you to mess it up. You also only need 1 8 Sleep unit per bed. You can have it control the temperature for specific sides, or you can have it control the temperature for the entire bed. For the Ooler and the Dock Pro, you need 2 units to control each side of the bed. I think it's pretty nice to have 1 unit control the temperature of both sides of the bed, but it would be a bummer if you ever ran into any issues with the unit. My husband recently ran into an issue with his Dock Pro unit, and he has to get it replaced. It's no big deal, it's under warranty, so it's fine. It's at no cost to us, but I'm not really having to deal with that issue because my Dock Pro unit is working just fine. If we hadn't had that experience with the Dock Pro, then I honestly don't think that that issue with the 8 Sleep would have even crossed my mind. But I do think it is worth mentioning. Let's talk about comfort. Personally, I found all 3 mattress pads to be really comfortable. I'd say that the Ooler's is the least comfortable because you can feel the tubes throughout the pad. The 8 Sleep and the Dock Pro are similar in comfort, but I do think that the 8 Sleep provides a slightly firmer feel. I don't really find the difference very noticeable, and I think it really boils down to what your personal preference is. For me, I think I prefer the slightly softer feel of the Dock Pro's mattress pad. How much noise do these devices make? I'm gonna keep it simple. The Ooler is the loudest, the Dock Pro is significantly quieter than the Ooler, but I think the 8 Sleep takes the cake. The 8 Sleep is just insanely quiet. I know some people are really sensitive to sound, and if you are one of those people, I think the 8 Sleep is probably the way to go. A big part of comfort, and probably one of the main reasons why you would buy any of these devices in the first place, is temperature regulation. So which device does it best? The Ooler is out of the running. It's dependent on the ambient temperature of the room, and that was the reason why we upgraded to the Dock Pro earlier this year. The Dock Pro does a much better job, and it gets really cold fairly fast. But I will say, the cold temperatures feel really cold. I normally set the Dock Pro to 72 degrees, and even then I'm still wrapped up in a fleece blanket underneath the covers. The 8 Sleep takes a little longer to cool down and it doesn't feel as cold as the Dock Pro. But with any of these kind of devices, there's a little bit of trial and error involved because you have to figure out what your sweet spot is. So I found 70 degrees to be my sweet spot for the 8 Sleep, but I also don't feel the need to bundle up. While I think the Dock Pro feels colder overall, I think the 8 Sleep provides a less intense experience, if that makes any sense. And hey, the 8 Sleep actually made it so that I could get a great night's sleep in the hottest room in my house. And that is not an easy feat, especially in Texas in the summer. Let's talk about the apps. 8 Sleep definitely takes the cake for having the most robust app. This is where you control the entire device, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but they do have a temperature rating system that I found to be a little bit confusing, but I was able to switch that over to Fahrenheit. They also have Celsius, and that's where I feel most comfortable. It has lots of smart features, and I love that you're able to integrate with other types of trackers. And you can also tag different lifestyle behaviors, so over time you can see how those behaviors may be impacting your sleep. The 8 Sleep has some tracking capabilities, which I think are really cool, especially if you're somebody who likes collecting that kind of data. And the Dock Pro is also coming out with some of these capabilities, but I believe they will all be behind a paywall. And because it's a mattress pad rather than a wearable device, I don't think the data is going to be as accurate. But I think it's interesting that you don't necessarily need a wearable and you're able to get a lot of information just by sleeping on your bed. On all 3 apps, you're able to set a temperature schedule and you can enable a warm awake feature. I like the idea of a warm awake, but in reality, I just don't find it to be a very pleasant experience. It definitely gets you out of bed, but I don't like waking up feeling literally hot and bothered. They all work about the same, but I do like that the 8 Sleep has a vibration feature to wake you up. So you can choose the intensity level of the vibration and you'll feel it more in like your chest and upper body area. I've set the intensity level to about a 3 and I found that to be much more pleasant than getting cooked out of bed. Now I do have one issue with the 8 Sleep, and that is that you can only control it through the app. Both the Ooler and the Dock Pro physically allow you to change the temperature on the device. And that's something that I think 8 Sleep should incorporate in a future model. Also, the easiest way to turn off the vibration alarm is by dismissing it or disabling it on your phone. I think you can hit a button in the back of the hub, but honestly, that's not very convenient. And if you lose your phone or if the Wi-Fi goes out, you're kind of SOL. With all that said, I think the 8 Sleep and the Dock Pro easily outperform the Ooler. But both of these devices are great and they will transform your sleep. The 8 Sleep is more expensive, but I think the design quality and the features that it provides makes it worth the money. And I know they recently released the Pod 3. While I got to try out the Pod 2, the only real differences between the Pod 2 and the Pod 3 are an improved CPU, improved Wi-Fi compatibility, improved sensors in the mattress pad, and the mattress pad itself, the active grid, is a little softer. I think you would be more than fine with the Pod 2. But if you're somebody who wants the latest and greatest, then maybe the Pod 3 is for you. The good news is that you really can't go wrong whichever device you choose. I do have links for the Dock Pro and the 8 Sleep down below, and 8 Sleep was kind enough to give me a discount code to share with you guys. And if you plan on getting an 8 Sleep, you should definitely capitalize on their Labor Day sale. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. And a big thank you again to 8 Sleep for letting me try out the pod.